What do you say to the most powerful woman in Europe that leaves her completely speechless? Giorgia Meloni just found out. One sentence, that's all it took. One perfectly aimed sentence that made Ursula von der Leyen freeze in the middle of her response, her diplomatic smile breaking in real time as cameras recorded every second. The European Union spent months trying to control Meloni, thinking they had finally calmed Italy's fiery leader. But in one explosive moment at a summit that was supposed to be normal, Meloni dropped a bomb that is now sending shockwaves through every hallway in Brussels. And what she said, it is the line every struggling EU country has been waiting to hear someone finally say out loud. Let's go back to understand why this moment mattered so much. For months, the European Union has been playing a very careful game with Italy. Smile in public, pressure in private. This is what Brussels does best. They need Italy badly because without Italy, the whole Mediterranean border falls apart. But they also do not like that Italy chose someone like Meloni, someone who does not bow, does not apologize, and does not take orders from unelected officials in Belgium. So they have been trying to manage her, control her, make her act nice. And for some time, it looked like it was working. Meloni came to summits, she signed papers, she smiled for cameras. Brussels felt relief. They thought they had controlled the Italian lion. They were wrong, because what they did not understand was that Meloni was not being quiet. She was watching, taking notes, building her case, and this week, at a summit that was supposed to be just another boring EU meeting full of empty promises and repeated speeches, she decided it was time to speak. The topic was migration again because it is always migration when it comes to Italy. Von der Leyen stood at the podium doing what she does best, talking about European unity like it is real and not just a word politicians use when they need something from you. She talked about sharing responsibility, about common solutions, about how every country must do its part. Beautiful words, empty words. Because here's the truth she did not say. Italy has been doing its part for years. Thousands of migrants arrive on Italian shores every single month. Not in Germany, not in France, not in Belgium where all these EU decisions are made, in Italy. And what does Brussels do? They send papers. Why? They send rules. They send inspectors to make sure Italy follows the rules. But money, real support, real help, comes with so many conditions it feels like control. Meloni sat there listening to the speech and you could see it on her face, that look, the one that says, I've heard this before and I am tired of it. When it was her turn to speak, everyone expected the usual polite answer. Thank you for your leadership. We look forward to working together. Italy remains loyal to European values, the normal script. But Meloni threw the script away. She stood up and instead of the polite leader everyone expected, they saw the fighter from Rome. Her opening line, Commissioner von der Leyen speaks beautifully about unity. But I wonder if she knows what that word really means to the people living in Lampedusa. Boom. The room felt cold immediately because Lampedusa, that small Italian island closer to Africa than to Rome, has become the symbol of everything wrong with EU migration policy. It is where boats arrive. It is where people are checked. It is where Italy is left to handle a crisis that affects all of Europe but is treated like Italy's problem alone. Von der Leyen's smile became tight. You could see her team getting nervous trying to see if this was planned or if Meloni was about to attack. She did. Meloni did not shout, she did not need to. Every word was calm, sharp, and clear. She talked about how Italy had asked for help months ago, how they were promised a new migration deal that would fairly share migrants across Europe, how that promise became another complicated system that kept Italy responsible while giving Brussels control. We were told this was about sharing the burden, Meloni said, her voice cutting through the quiet room. But it seems sharing only works one way. Italy shares the migrants, Brussels shares the orders. Her sarcasm was clear, and the reporters loved it. Cameras moved closer, microphones moved forward because this was not just politics. This was someone finally saying what many people in Europe were thinking but were afraid to say. She was not finished, not even close. Meloni then turned to another topic that made officials very uncomfortable: money. She talked about how the EU uses money as control. Commissioner von der Leyen recently announced new monitoring rules. Meloni said, her voice now cold. Monitoring, that is a polite word for control. Brussels wants to decide how Italy spends money that is supposed to help Italy recover from the pandemic that hurt Italy more than most of Northern Europe. She paused for a moment and then gave the strong line. If that is partnership, then I do not want to see what you call control. People in the room were shocked because in EU diplomacy, you do not accuse the European Commission of acting like a colonial power. You simply do not, but Meloni just did. And von der Leyen, sitting there with her perfect posture and perfect suit, suddenly looked like someone who was trapped. And the truth is, Meloni was not wrong. The EU Recovery Fund, created after COVID to help countries rebuild, came with many conditions. Countries had to send detailed plans. They had to accept changes. They had to accept monitoring. And if Brussels did not agree, they could stop the money. It happened before. Poland and Hungary have been fighting this for years, but now Italy, one of the EU's founding countries, one of its biggest economies, was saying it publicly. That changes everything, because if Italy cannot trust Brussels, who can? Meloni continued. She talked about migration again, but now she connected it to sovereignty. We are told we must accept migrants because it is our duty as Europeans, she said. But when we ask for resources to help them, we are told to follow Brussels rules on how to spend our own money. When we ask for border help, we are told that is not how European unity works. So let me ask the commissioner a simple question. She stopped. The whole room waited. If Italy has no say in who arrives, no control over how we manage the crisis, and no freedom to use our resources as we choose, are we a sovereign country or just an office of the European Commission? The question stayed in the air like a bomb ready to explode, because that is the question every EU country asks but never says in front of cameras. Von der Leyen tried to answer. She started talking about unity, about facing problems together, about how the Commission respects sovereignty while keeping common standards. It was the kind of answer that sounds good but means nothing. And Meloni knew it. You could see it in her face, that small smile, the one that says, "You are proving my point." She did not interrupt. She let von der Leyen finish. And then she said the line now shown on every news channel in Europe. Commissioner, with all respect, respect is not telling someone they are sovereign while treating them like a servant, the moment everyone was waiting for, and von der Leyen. She had no answer. Nothing. She moved to the next topic like nothing happened. But everyone knew it happened, and more importantly, everyone knew Meloni had won. But here's where it gets more interesting, because this was not just one argument at one summit. This was about something bigger growing under European politics, something Brussels tried to ignore but cannot ignore now. The rebellion is spreading and Meloni became its face. After the summit, reactions started coming. In Poland, leaders called her speech brave. In Hungary, Viktor Orban praised her online. Even in France, where Emmanuel Macron tries to lead Europe, opposition leaders supported Meloni. Marine Le Pen called it historic, where the right supported her, but also people on the left supported her. Because Meloni touched something bigger than politics, the feeling that democracy is being replaced by bureaucracy, that voting matters less when real decisions are made by people you never elected in Brussels. Brussels tried to control the story. EU officials released statements talking about healthy debate. They said it was normal. But the video showed the truth. Meloni challenging von der Leyen struggling, the Commission looking nervous. And suddenly, leaders across Europe were thinking, maybe you can fight back and win. That is the real danger for the EU, not criticism, but proof you can criticize and become stronger. Her popularity in Italy increased, media showed it everywhere, and other leaders started thinking about doing the same. The effect Brussels feared may have started, and it started with the leader they thought they controlled. Von der Leyen, who was known for handling crisis calmly, now looks like she is losing control. The image of EU unity is breaking, and the person holding the hammer is in Rome smiling. But this story does not end here, because what happened next showed something even more shocking about what happens behind closed doors in Brussels and why her team tried to change the topic. What did they discover? And what does it mean for Europe's future? So where does this leave Europe? Standing at a crossroad it avoided for years. Meloni did not just challenge von der Leyen, she challenged the whole system. The illusion of unity is broken. The idea of solidarity is exposed, and every capital from Warsaw to Madrid is watching. Because if Italy stands and survives, others will follow. Von der Leyen can smile and release statements, but the damage is done. The question is not if others will challenge Brussels. The question is when. and Meloni showed them how. She proved you do not need permission to defend your country. You do not need approval to speak truth. And you do not need Brussels' permission to remind them that sovereignty is not a gift. The real battle is starting now. And the woman from Rome fired the first shot heard across Europe. What happens next will decide if the EU changes or breaks, if it listens or falls under its own pride. One thing is clear though, nobody is underestimating Giorgia Meloni anymore. If this story opened your eyes to what is happening in European politics, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because this is not over. Write a comment below. Do you think Meloni is protecting democracy or breaking European unity? Let's discuss and share this video with anyone who still thinks Brussels controls everything. They need to see this.